Love made me blind. Revenge gave me vision. I didn't scream when I found out. I didn't throw his clothes out the window or post about it on social media. I just smiled. And then I started documenting everything. 6 months later, I walked into a courtroom and watched a man's entire empire collapse in 47 minutes. But I'm getting ahead of myself. My name is Elena Martinez. I'm 32 years old. And for 7 years, I believed love could fix anything. That patience was power. That loyalty would be returned. I was wrong, but I wasn't stupid. I just hadn't learned how to see yet. This is the story of how blindness almost destroyed me, and how vision saved my life. I need you to understand something from the beginning. I wasn't naive. I had a good career. I was a marketing director at a tech startup in Austin, Texas. I made $95,000 a year. I had my own apartment before I met Ethan, my own car, my own savings account. I didn't need a man to rescue me. But when I met Ethan Blackwell at a networking event in 2016, I thought I'd found something rare. A partner. An equal. Someone who saw me. Ethan was 35 then, running a commercial construction company he'd started from nothing. Blackwell Development. 3 employees when he started in 2012. By 2016, he had 15 employees and contracts worth $8 million. He was impressive, not in a flashy way, but in a solid, dependable way. He drove a clean but modest truck. He wore jeans and work boots to the office. He talked about his projects with genuine passion, about building things that lasted, about creating jobs, about doing work that mattered. On our first date, he asked me about my goals. My actual goals. Not just what I did for work. He listened when I talked, made eye contact, asked follow-up questions. That's rare, you know, a man who actually listens. We dated for 14 months before he proposed. Nothing extravagant. He took me hiking at Big Bend National Park, and when we reached the summit, he pulled out a simple ring and said, "I want to build a life with you." Not, "I love you," or some rehearsed speech. Just, "I want to build a life with you." I said yes without hesitation. We got married 6 months later. Small ceremony, 70 people. My family flew in from California. His parents came from Houston. We had barbecue and dancing, and it felt perfect. The first 3 years were good. Really good. We bought a house in South Austin, 3 bedrooms, a yard with oak trees, a mortgage we could afford. Ethan's company kept growing. I got promoted to VP of Marketing at my firm. We had Sunday morning pancakes. We had game nights with friends. We had plans to start trying for kids once his company stabilized. We had a life. Year 4, things started shifting. Small things at first. Ethan started working later, coming home at 9 p.m., then 10 p.m., then midnight. He said it was just the nature of construction, deadlines, client demands, crew management. I understood. I worked long hours too sometimes. Year 5, he started traveling more. Houston for supplier meetings, Dallas for client pitches, San Antonio for project inspections. 2 nights a week turned into 3, then 4. I started eating dinner alone most nights. Year 6, I realized we hadn't had sex in 3 months. When I brought it up, Ethan said he was exhausted. The business was demanding. He was stressed about cash flow. He still loved me. We'd reconnect once things settled. I believed him because that's what love does. It believes, it waits, it gives the benefit of the doubt. Year 7, I stopped recognizing the woman in the mirror. I'd lost 15 pounds without trying. There were dark circles under my eyes that makeup couldn't cover. I'd stopped seeing friends because I was always waiting for Ethan to come home, waiting for things to get back to normal. But normal never came back, because normal had been a lie for longer than I knew. Ethan Blackwell was the kind of man people automatically respected. He had that rugged, capable look, strong hands, calluses from actual work, a deep voice that sounded trustworthy. He wasn't smooth or polished. He was real, authentic, or so everyone thought. By year 7 of our marriage, Blackwell Development had grown into a major player in Austin's commercial construction scene. 42 employees, Contracts worth $35 million annually, projects all over Central Texas. Ethan was featured in Austin Business Journal as one of 30 under 40 rising leaders. He spoke on panels about entrepreneurship. He mentored young business owners. He sponsored Little League teams and donated to local schools. Everyone loved him. At company events, clients would pull me aside and tell me how lucky I was, what a good man he was, how rare it was to find someone with integrity in the construction industry. I'd smile and say, "I know, I'm very lucky." And I meant it, because I still believed it, even when he stopped coming to bed before I was asleep, even when he stopped asking about my day, even when I realized I couldn't remember the last time he'd looked at me, really looked at me, like he used to. Love makes you excuse things. It makes you rationalize. He's building an empire, I'd tell myself. He's under pressure. He's providing for our future. But what I didn't understand yet was that he wasn't building our future. He was building his, and I wasn't in it. Chapter 3. The First Lie I Chose to Ignore, 6/8/45. The first real crack appeared on a Tuesday in March. Ethan told me he had a late meeting with a potential investor. Said he'd be home around 11 p.m. At 10:47 p.m., I was still awake, reading in bed, when I heard his truck pull into the driveway. He came upstairs, kissed my forehead, said the meeting went well. The next morning, I was making coffee when I saw a receipt on the counter. He must have emptied his pockets the night before. Dinner for two at Uchi, 9:15 p.m., $287. I stared at that receipt for a full minute. Uchi was a sushi restaurant downtown. Expensive, romantic. Not the kind of place you take an investor for a business meeting. When Ethan came downstairs, I held up the receipt. "Late meeting?" I said. He barely glanced at it. "Oh yeah, the investor wanted something nicer than a sports bar. You know how these finance guys are. For two people? His assistant came along. She handles his portfolio." The explanation was smooth. Reasonable. It should have satisfied me. But something in my gut twisted. "What's the investor's name?" I asked. "Richard Voss, out of Dallas, real estate portfolio." "And his assistant?" Ethan looked at me then. Really looked at me, and for just a second, I saw something flicker in his eyes. Annoyance. "Elena, what's this about?" "Nothing, I'm just asking." "Her name is Lena something. I don't remember her last name. Why does it matter?" "It doesn't. I was just curious." He grabbed his coffee and headed for the door. "I've got to get to the Pflugerville site. I'll be home late again tonight." Then he was gone. I stood there holding that receipt, and a voice in my head whispered, "That was a lie." But love whispered back, "Don't overthink. Don't be that wife. Don't be paranoid." So I threw the receipt away. That was my first mistake. Not because I was wrong to trust him, but because I was wrong to stop trusting myself. By summer, Ethan and I were roommates who happened to share a last name. We didn't fight. We didn't argue. We just existed in the same space without actually connecting. He'd come home late. I'd already be in bed. He'd wake up early. I'd still be sleeping. We'd pass each other in the kitchen, exchange pleasantries. "How was your day?" "Good. Busy. You?" "Same." Then he'd leave, and I'd feel like I was disappearing. The sex had stopped completely. 5 months, then 6. Then I stopped counting. I tried initiating once, wore lingerie, waited for him in the bedroom. When he came home at 11:30 p.m., he looked exhausted. "Babe, I'm wiped. Can we rain check?" I said, "Okay." We never talked about it again. I started wondering if something was wrong with me, if I'd gained weight, if I'd become boring, if I'd stopped being attractive. I'd stand in front of the mirror, analyzing my body, my face, my hair, trying to figure out what had changed, what had made him stop wanting me. That's what betrayal does to women. It makes us internalize it, makes us believe we're the problem. That if we were better, prettier, more interesting, more accommodating, then maybe we'd be loved the way we deserve. But the truth is simpler and more brutal. When someone stops loving you, it's not because you're not enough. it's because they've chosen someone else. I just didn't know that yet. Everything changed at 2:13 a.m. on a Saturday in August. I was asleep, or trying to sleep, when Ethan's phone buzzed on his nightstand. Once, twice, 3 times. He was beside me, facing away, breathing deeply. I don't know what made me look. Maybe intuition, maybe desperation. Maybe the universe finally deciding I'd suffered enough. I reached over him carefully and picked up his phone. The screen lit up. 3 messages from L. 2:13 am. Can't sleep. Missing you. 2:13 am. I wish I was still in your arms. 2:14 am. When can I see you again? My heart stopped, then started again, too fast, too loud. I scrolled up. The conversation went back months, hundreds of messages, photos I couldn't look at, plans I couldn't process. And then I found it. A message from July 3rd. The test came back positive. We're going to be parents. Ethan's response. This is everything I've wanted. I love you so much. I sat there in the dark, holding his phone, feeling my entire life rewrite itself. 7 years. 7 years of marriage. 7 years of loyalty, patience, compromise. And he'd been building a completely different life. With someone else. I didn't wake him. I didn't scream or cry or throw things. I just sat there until my hands stopped shaking. Then I did something that saved my life. I started taking screenshots, every message, every photo, every plan. I forwarded them to an email account Ethan didn't know about. Then, I put his phone back exactly where I'd found it. And I lay there in the dark until dawn, my mind completely clear for the first time in years. Love had made me blind, but betrayal was giving me vision, and I was going to see everything. I didn't confront Ethan that morning. I didn't mention the messages. I didn't ask questions, because I'd learned something important during my years in marketing. Information is power, and the moment you reveal what you know, you lose your advantage. When Ethan woke up at 7:30 a.m., I was already downstairs making breakfast. Eggs, bacon, toast, coffee. Like it was any other Saturday. Morning, he said, kissing the top of my head. You're up early. Couldn't sleep, I said, which was true. He grabbed coffee, scrolled through his phone, showered. I've got to run to the office for a few hours, he said. One of the crew guys is having issues with the Cedar Park project. On a Saturday? Yeah, you know how it is. Can't wait until Monday, I smiled. Of course, I understand. He left at 9 a.m. The moment his truck was out of the driveway, I went to his home office. I'd never snooped before, never felt the need to, but that version of me died at 2:13 a.m. The new version knew exactly what to do. His computer was password protected. But I knew the password. It was our wedding date. How sentimental. I logged in. 4 hours later, I had a complete picture of Ethan Blackwell's double life. Her name was Lena Torres, 27 years old. Project coordinator at a supply company Blackwell Development worked with. They'd been involved for at least 2 years, maybe longer. The emails were detailed. Hotel reservations, weekend trips, plans for a future that didn't include me. I found receipts for jewelry I'd never seen. A diamond necklace, $4,200. Receipts for a lease on an apartment in Round Rock, $2,100 a month. Lease signed 18 months ago. He'd been keeping her in an apartment for a year and a half. I found bank statements for accounts I'd never known existed. 3 separate accounts, all in Ethan's name only. Total balance, $347. Money that should have been ours. Money from our marriage, our shared life, our joint future. He'd been hiding it for years. I copied everything, forwarded emails to my secret account, downloaded bank statements, took photos of receipts. By the time Ethan came home at 2 p.m., I was back on the couch, reading a book, looking calm. How was the office? I asked. Frustrating, but handled. I smiled. Good. That night, we ordered pizza, watched a movie, went to bed. He fell asleep within minutes. I stared at the ceiling, mind racing. I wasn't crying anymore. I was calculating. Over the next 3 weeks, I became someone I didn't recognize. Calm, strategic, detached. I tracked Ethan's movements without him knowing. I checked his location through Find My iPhone. A feature he'd forgotten was active. When he said he was at the Cedar Park site, he was at the Round Rock apartment. When he said he was meeting suppliers in San Antonio, he was at a resort in New Braunfels with Lena. I started mapping his patterns. Every late meeting was actually a dinner with her. Every weekend inspection was actually time at her apartment. He wasn't even being careful, or maybe he just didn't think I'd ever check, because I never had before. Loyal women don't investigate, they trust. But I wasn't loyal anymore. I was building a case. I went through 3 years of credit card statements, found charges at restaurants I'd never been to, hotels I'd never stayed at, stores I'd never shopped in, $73,000 in charges over 3 years. All for her. All with money that was supposed to be ours. I found travel itineraries, weekend trips to Houston, San Antonio, even one to Cancun last February, when he'd told me he was at a construction conference in Dallas. I'd been home alone while he was on vacation with his pregnant girlfriend. The rage I felt wasn't hot. It was cold, precise, focused. This wasn't just infidelity anymore. This was theft, and thieves face consequences. I didn't contact Lena, not yet. But I researched her. Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. Lena Torres was beautiful in that effortless young way. Long dark hair, bright smile, confident poses. She posted about self-care, gratitude, manifesting your dreams. In one post from August, she was at a yoga studio, hands on her visible baby bump, caption, "Growing my greatest blessing." 63 comments, all congratulations, all from women who had no idea. She believed she'd won, that Ethan had chosen her because she was special, younger, better. She had no idea she was just a replacement, a newer model, and replacements are temporary. I wondered if she knew he still shared a bed with me, still said, "I love you," every morning, before leaving for work, still wore his wedding ring. Or maybe she didn't care. Maybe she'd convinced herself that what they had was real, that he'd leave me eventually, that she'd get to be Mrs. Blackwell, live in my house, sleep in my bed, raise her child in the life I'd helped build. She thought she'd won the prize, but she didn't understand the game she was playing, because Ethan Blackwell didn't love anyone but himself, and she was about to learn that the hard way. I told my best friend Maya everything 3 weeks after I found the messages. We met at a coffee shop in Hyde Park, neutral territory, somewhere Ethan would never go. I showed her the screenshots, the bank statements, the receipts, the emails. She didn't say, "I told you so," even though she'd never fully trusted Ethan. She just held my hand and said, "What do you need?" That's when I cried for the first time. Not because I was heartbroken, but because I was relieved. Relieved that someone knew, that I didn't have to carry this alone anymore. "I need help," I said. "I need to make sure he doesn't get away with this." Maya nodded. She was a paralegal at a family law firm. She knew exactly what to do. "You need a lawyer, a good one, and you need a forensic accountant." She introduced me to both. The lawyer's name was Janet Reeves, mid-50s, sharp eyes, no-nonsense demeanor. "Mrs. Blackwell," she said at our first meeting, "I need you to be clear about what you want. Do you want a quick divorce, or do you want justice?" "Justice," she smiled. "Then we're going to get along perfectly." The forensic accountant was a man named David Park, former IRS investigator, now working privately. He reviewed my documents for 3 hours without speaking. Finally, he looked up. "Your husband has been systematically hiding marital assets for at least 4 years. If I dig deeper, I'll find more. And if he's been doing this with personal money, he's likely doing it with business money too. Can you prove it? Give me a month." I gave him everything I had. He got to work. I stopped confronting Ethan about anything. I stopped asking where he'd been. I stopped checking his phone. Instead, I became softer, more agreeable, more affectionate. Men grow careless when they feel safe. And Ethan felt very safe. I started cooking his favorite meals again: pot roast, lasagna, chocolate chip cookies. I suggested date nights, movie nights, weekend getaways. Ethan looked confused at first, then relieved. "I feel like we're reconnecting," he said one night after dinner. "Like we're getting back to us." "Me too," I said, touching his arm. "I think I was just stressed about work. But I'm better now." He squeezed my hand. "I'm glad. I've missed this." "Me too." Every word was a lie. But lies are tools. And I was using every tool I had. David called me on a Wednesday afternoon in late September. "You need to sit down." I was already sitting. In my parked car outside Whole Foods, heart pounding. "Go ahead." "Your husband has been embezzling from his own company for at least 3 years." Silence. "How much?" $1.8 million conservatively. I closed my eyes. "He's been inflating project costs, creating fake vendor accounts, and redirecting company funds into his personal accounts. The 3 hidden accounts you found? Those are just the tip. I found 7 more." "Can you prove this?" "Absolutely. I have transaction records, forged invoices, everything. This isn't just divorce material. This is criminal fraud." "What happens when this comes out?" "He'll face criminal charges. The company will collapse. His investors and employees will sue. It's going to be devastating." I should have felt guilty, should have felt something, but I didn't. I felt nothing but cold, clear certainty. "Send me everything." He did. 112 pages of evidence. I forwarded it all to Janet. She called me an hour later. "Elena, this changes everything. We're not just talking divorce. We're talking about criminal prosecution." "Good. Are you sure you want to do this? Once we file, there's no going back." I thought about 7 years of my life. 7 years of loyalty to a man who'd been planning my erasure. 7 years of funding a double life I didn't know existed. I'm sure. While David was building the financial case, I went back to Ethan's computer one more time. I found a document buried in a folder labeled Personal, Do Not Open. The title, Separation Strategy, Final Draft. I opened it. It was a divorce plan, detailed, methodical, brutal. Section 1, Timeline File for Divorce, December 2023. Finalize, March 2024. Public Announcement of New Relationship, May 2024. Move Lena into primary residence, June 2024. Section 2, Asset Protection Transfer $500K from joint accounts to offshore holdings. Restructure Blackwell Development to exclude Elena from equity claims, sell marital home. Claim market downturn to justify lower sale price. Distribute proceeds 60-40 in my favor. Argue greater contribution to down payment. Section 3. Settlement strategy offer $150K lump sum, no spousal support. Emphasize her career earnings as VP goal. Finalize within 90 days. Avoid lengthy discovery. If she resists, use career ambitions as leverage. Divorce will distract from her work. Section 4. Narrative control frame as grown apart, different life goals. Introduce Lena as new relationship that developed post-separation. Delay pregnancy announcement until after divorce finalized. There was even a note at the end. Elena is non-confrontational. She'll want to avoid drama, offer enough to seem fair, but not enough to impact long-term plans. She'll accept to move on quickly. I read that line 10 times. He'd studied me like I was a business problem to be solved. He'd concluded I was manageable, predictable, someone who would take whatever he offered just to avoid conflict. That's when any remaining love died. Not when I found the affair, not when I found the pregnancy, but when I realized he'd never actually known me at all. He'd known the version of me I'd become while loving him. The accommodating one, the patient one, the one who didn't make waves. But that woman was gone, and he was about to meet someone new. October 5th, 2023. 2 months before Ethan planned to file for divorce. I filed first, not just divorce papers. A full legal complaint, fraud, embezzlement, asset concealment, breach of fiduciary duty. I filed it publicly. which meant anyone could see it, including his investors, his employees, his clients. I also sent David's forensic report to the Texas Attorney General's office, the IRS, and the Austin Police Department's Financial Crimes Unit. 3 separate investigations launched within 48 hours. Janet sent Ethan's attorney a settlement demand. Not an offer, a demand. He would surrender 85% of all marital assets. He would pay $6,000 monthly spousal support for 5 years. He would assume all business debts and legal liabilities. I would keep the house, both cars, and all retirement accounts. If he contested, we'd go to full discovery, and discovery would reveal everything publicly. A journalist friend of Maya's published an article the same day in the Austin American-Statesman. Local construction executive faces fraud allegations, $1.8 million allegedly embezzled. By noon, it was the most read story on their website. By 3 p.m., local news stations were calling for comment. By 6 p.m., Blackwell Development's board had suspended Ethan pending investigation. By 9 p.m., 3 major clients had terminated their contracts. I was at Maya's apartment when Ethan started calling. I didn't answer. He called 22 times. Then he showed up at the house. But before that happened, there was the baby shower. Lena's baby shower. I'd been invited 3 weeks earlier. Yes, really. She'd sent me an invitation, probably at Ethan's suggestion, to maintain appearances until he filed for divorce. The invitation arrived in the mail, lavender cardstock, elegant script. Celebrating baby girl Blackwell, October 14th, 2 p.m. Most women would have thrown it away, or sent back a scathing message. But I'm not most women. I RSVP'd, yes. And I bought a gift. The shower was at a trendy event space in East Austin. 50 guests, mostly Lena's friends and coworkers, a few of Ethan's employees. I arrived exactly on time, wearing a navy dress, hair perfect, makeup flawless, carrying a large, beautifully wrapped box. Lena's face when she saw me was priceless. Confusion, then panic, then a forced smile. "Elena, you came. That's so kind of you." "Of course," I said warmly. "Wouldn't miss it." Ethan wasn't there. Lena said he was working, but we all knew men didn't come to baby showers. I socialized, smiled, made small talk. When it was time to open gifts, Lena sat in a decorated chair while guests gathered around. She opened presents one by one. Baby clothes, diapers, a stroller, a crib mobile. Everyone oohed and awed appropriately. Finally, she got to my gift. The large, beautifully wrapped box. She smiled at me. "Elena, you didn't have to do this." "I wanted to," I said. "Open it." She tore the paper carefully, opened the box. Inside was another box, and another, and another, 5 nested boxes. The room was getting quieter with each one. Finally, she opened the smallest box. Inside was a USB drive and a note. She read the note silently. Her face went white. The note said, "Since you're building a life with my husband, I thought you should know who you're building it with. Everything on this drive is documented proof of Ethan's embezzlement, fraud, and financial crimes. There's also a timeline of our marriage, including dates he was with me while telling you he was working. You're welcome." "Elena." Lena looked up at me, speechless. The room was silent. "I'll let myself out," I said pleasantly. "Congratulations on the baby." I walked out. Behind me, I heard someone ask, "What was that about?" And then I heard Lena start to cry. Ethan showed up at the house at 11:30 p.m., pounding on the door. I'd changed the locks that afternoon. I stood in the living room, watching him through the window. He was yelling, "Elena, open the door!" I called the police, told them my estranged husband was trespassing and I felt unsafe. They arrived in 8 minutes. I watched from the window as they talked to him. He was gesturing wildly, trying to explain. They didn't care. They told him to leave or he'd be arrested. He left. 20 minutes later, my phone rang. I answered this time. "What the fuck did you do?" he said. His voice was shaking. "I filed for divorce and reported your crimes. What did you think was going to happen? You had no right. No right. Ethan, you stole from your own company. You stole from me. You built an entire second life while I was home waiting for you. Those allegations are bullshit." David Park was an IRS investigator for 12 years. He doesn't make mistakes. Silence. "You sent that stuff to Lena at her baby shower. What kind of person does that?" "The kind who's done being lied to. She deserved to know who she's having a baby with." "You're destroying everything." "No, Ethan. You already did that. I'm just making sure everyone can see the damage. Please, Elena, please. We can fix this. We can work it out. There's nothing to fix. It's over. You made sure of that when you started planning my erasure 2 years ago." "What are you talking about?" "The document on your computer. Separation strategy. Your plan to divorce me, take most of the assets, and move Lena into our house. Did you really think I wouldn't find it?" He was quiet for a long time. Then, "You've been spying on me." I laughed. Actually laughed. "Spying? No, Ethan. I was gathering evidence. There's a difference. What do you want?" "I already told your lawyer what I want. 85% of assets, $6,000 monthly for 5 years. You take all business debts. I keep the house." "That's insane!" "Or we can go to trial, where every detail of your fraud becomes public record, where Lena learns exactly how much money you spent on her apartment, her jewelry, your trips, where everyone learns you're not a self-made man, you're a thief." "I'll fight you." "Go ahead. Discovery will be fun." I hung up. He didn't call back. Judgment Day, 44/47/3. The divorce finalized in 5 months. Ethan accepted my settlement demand. He had no choice. Discovery would have destroyed what little remained of his reputation. I got the house, $680,000 in assets, both vehicles, all retirement accounts. He got $92,000 in debt. In February 2024, he was charged with felony theft and fraud. He pleaded guilty to avoid trial. 3 years probation, $1.2 million in restitution, permanent revocation of his contractor's license. Blackwell Development dissolved within 60 days. 42 people lost their jobs. I felt bad about that, but not bad enough to change anything. Lena left him 3 weeks after the charges were filed. Moved back to El Paso with her family. Had the baby, a girl, in March. Put "father unknown" on the birth certificate. Ethan tried to establish paternity. She refused. He tried to sue for custody. The court dismissed it. He lost his child the same way he lost everything else. Through his own choices. Through his own arrogance. Through his certainty that he was untouchable. Today, I live in the house Ethan and I bought together. But it's not the same house. I renovated everything, repainted, new furniture, new energy. It's mine now, completely mine. I'm still VP of marketing at my firm. Got another promotion last year. Now I'm Chief Marketing Officer, making $170,000. I started a side business consulting for women going through high-conflict divorces, teaching them how to document, how to protect themselves, how to fight. My client list is long. Turns out there continue to unfortunately amar a lot of women like I used to be, women who believed love would be returned, who gave loyalty and received betrayal, who discovered too late that they'd been funding their own replacement. I help them see clearly, help them fight strategically, help them walk away with what they're owed. Because I learned something important. Revenge isn't about hurting someone. It's about refusing to be erased. People ask me sometimes if I regret how I handled things, if I think I went too far. If the baby shower thing was cruel, I don't regret any of it. Because Ethan didn't just cheat. He planned to erase me, quietly, efficiently, with minimal disruption to his life. He studied my personality and concluded I was manageable. He was wrong, and Lena needed to know who she was having a child with. She deserved the truth before she wasted more years on a man who would eventually do the same thing to her. Because men like Ethan don't change. They just find new victims. Love didn't fail me. Blindness did. For 7 years, I chose not to see. Chose to believe his lies because believing was easier than knowing. Chose loyalty over clarity. And it almost destroyed me. But betrayal gave me something love never could. Vision. The ability to see people clearly. To see manipulation for what it is. To see that loyalty without reciprocity is just self-destruction. Revenge didn't make me cruel. It made me awake. And once you're awake, once you see clearly, you never beg for loyalty again. You never shrink yourself again. You never wait for someone to choose you again. You choose yourself. Every single time. My name is Elena Martinez. I'm 32 years old. And I sleep peacefully now. Because I learned that the most expensive thing in the world isn't revenge. It's staying blind when the truth is right in front of you. Love kept me loyal. But vision set me free. If you've ever ignored red flags because you wanted to believe, if you've ever chosen loyalty over self-protection, if you've ever wondered whether you were overreacting, leave a comment. Trust your intuition. It's trying to save you. And remember, the most dangerous moment in a relationship isn't when you stop loving someone. It's when you stop trusting yourself.